Hello, everybody, and welcome to this, the Large Blast podcast, bottom in listenership and top in quality. I'm your host, Stoney, and I'm joined, as always, by Matt.
I'm an insect who dreamt he was a man.
And Welshie.
I want to stroke your felinid.
And they normally call us Abhumans because of our massive abs. But on this episode, they're calling us Abhumans because of weird arms and stuff that are growing out of the sides of our heads. We're talking about the Abhumans of Warhammer 40,000. But before we do that, we're going to get things kicked off with a little something we call Hobbies Goings On, where we talk about the hobbies, what have been goings on. So, Welshie, do you want to kick us off this time?
I have been on holiday for 3 weeks, which is why some of the news you'll hear in a minute is a little bit older than normal. I know you've come to expect us to be finger right on the pulse of Warhammer, and we've never got delays, but I've been away. I've been thinking a lot about Warhammer. I've thought of endless plans. I went to Vietnam and I saw lots of military hardware that made me think about lots of Imperial Guard, particularly like Catachan dioramas that I could do. And then I've just got back and realized I've only done a third of the Leviathan box, and I'm just going to have to do that instead of any fancy dioramas. So I'll just crack on with the Warhammer grind, you know.
Back into the Warhammer grind. Sounds like had a bit got a bit of time to daydream about it whilst you're on holiday though, which
I tell you what I was doing that was 40k related whilst I was away. I was listening to a lot of audio books, did a lot of bus journeys and flights and stuff. I listened to some more Caiaphas Cain. I'm going to keep saying his name wrong because I know it annoys some of our listeners. But what was really good is I listened to Lord of the Fallen, the new Cypher book that finally came out on audiobook, and it is bloody brilliant. So if you're listening to this, highly recommend Lord of the Fallen. Don't expect anything other than secrets, and then at the end him going, well, you can't really believe anything I say because it's all secrets. It's lots of secrets, but it's a really good journey. There's an assassin involved, and there's one thing that you find out at the end, so spoiler alert, because I think you boys might be interested in it. It turns out that the Lion Sword is a key for something, and Cypher is trying to get to the Emperor, and it's never really given away whether he's trying to kill the Emperor or whether he's trying to use the key. And my big thought is that the Lion Sword is actually a key to the Webway Gate under the palace.
Oh my god.
That's what I reckon, and that would be really cool. And he basically does it. He gets to the door to the throne room. There's only one Custodes that's left to stop him, and the Custodes has been given a message by the Emperor in like a vision, and Cypher says essentially, I'm going to kill you and walk in there. There's nothing you can say to stop me. And the Custodes says, I spoke to the Emperor. He says, not yet. And Cypher turns around and walks away. And it's really fucking it's a big fuck you to the listener, but it's really cool that he's got this far. He could have got in there. Who knows what he was going to do? But for some reason, potentially the Emperor, we think it's the Emperor, has said, not yet. It's not the time. So what he's waiting for, we don't know. Secrets upon secrets, circles in circles. Well worth a listen if I haven't just ruined it for you.
Well, there you go. Go and listen to the rest of that book to work backwards from the ending. It's always the best way for any book.
Yeah, for sure. One other thing I did while I was away, because my girlfriend's just brought this in. She very diligently played Warhammer combat cards with me, which I took on holiday with us. If you haven't played combat cards, Matt and I played it on holiday before. It's a great game. Pick up a deck. It's like Top Trumps, but a little bit more complicated. It's good fun.
Yeah, you probably get them on eBay now.
Yeah, they've been around for a long time.
Matt, what have you been up to? What's going on in your Warhammer progress?
I haven't been up to much either, though I have basically finished the Tyranids from the Leviathan set.
Ooh, painting or putting together?
Painted.
Wow.
My goodness.
Basically done them.
Have you painted them in the Bretonian style or something like that?
They've got fleur-de-lis all over them. I managed, you probably don't remember, but I said that I wasn't going to buy any more Warhammer this year unless I could get my hands on the Imperial Guard Minsk Lady Guard character figure model.
Ah, yes.
which I managed to get hold of, which is
excellent.
looks like a great model. Yeah, so she is straight onto the pile of shame. And I also said that the second thing I would try and get would be the Space Marine limited to USA Target stores. The Space Marine board game, which is got the Lieutenant Titus in, the character from the Space Marine games, and a load of Tyranids. And I managed to get myself a copy all the way flown from the USA to me from Target, and it's really interesting because I've only looked through the box briefly, but it was made in the USA, and I did not know that Games Workshop were making stuff in the USA. You get made in. They make some of the books in China. They do the plastic in the UK, but this.
Okay, so the plastic's still printed here.
No,
the sprues have got US on them.
The whole box says
made in the
USA.
US of A.
Oh no!
Yeah, okay. It's kind of interesting, but I wondered whether, because I know.
I can't believe. I always thought that Britain was the only place that had this technology. I can't believe the rest of the world has caught on. Boy.
Injection molding.
No. What are we going to do?
What's that? What's that game? Lost Patrol. Lost Patrol was made by another company. I wondered if it was the same deal, but I haven't got to the bottom of it. So, if anybody listening knows.
Game? Can we bring it to the pub?
Yeah. It's another pub-sized game. Probably going to be as hard as Lost Patrol, but I'm all for that.
Why bring an easy game to the pub when you can bring a game that you need to continually drown your sorrows for losing? Excellent. What about you, Stoney? Have you been ZBrushing hard?
My Instagram got shut down. My Stoney Instagram got shut down.
Oh,
so
no.
If you were one of my 50 followers, sorry about that. It's gone down. So that was a bit of a blow. But if you can find me at Sex Chainsaw on Instagram if you want to see any of my other stuff that I've been doing. So that's on there. I don't know what happened to the other one. I was just, you post a couple of full Family Guy episodes with a link to your shady website, and I don't know, you get shut off Instagram. It's a bloody travesty. So I did that. I've been working on my servitor things that I've been doing.
Nice.
And I was like, because I've been doing them for ages, and I've got kind of like sort of getting frustrated with the amount of time it was taking. But like I was looking at, because I was doing my test prints the other day, and there's like 9 models in the kit, 9 or 10 models, depending on how you make it in the kit. And it's like, okay, well, that's like more than I've put out already. So even though it's taking longer, it is like, I am producing like a lot more models. But so I think I've got them looking cool. I've got the guy that carrying servitor now either carries a statue and goes with some guys like a weird art servitor that's got like 3 faces stitched on his face and like an arm coming out his chest, writing a book.
That sounds good.
And like stuff like that. And then, so it could be like there's like the kind of the art ones carrying the statue. There's the kind of the military ones where the guy who's carrying the thing has got a big gun on his back, like a kind of an artillery piece on his back. And then he's got like 2 weird sort of military servitors that go with him. Or there's like the ecclesiarchy ones that's got the preacher in the pulpit, and then like 2 kind of cool like ecclesiarchy thug men that kind of go with him. Yeah, so like I'm looking forward to getting that done. And the other thing that I did that I thought was quite worth mentioning was I spoke a while ago about trying to do marbling. And Matt was all like, "Oh, why don't you use cotton wool?" I remember him saying it right now. He's like, "You should use cotton wool or something." Well, I know it was, and what a bullshit piece of advice that turned out to be. So you're wrong, Matt. Don't use the cotton wool. Forget it. Forget it. It was wrong. Do you remember like a few years ago, there was like this sort of trend on Facebook and stuff where they were doing spray paint on water. So you they'd spray paint the surface of water and then put something, because it kind of like it separates from the water. So when you push it through the surface.
Guitar dip videos, is that kind of
thing? Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Be like someone doing their shoes or a skull or something, And I was like, oh, why not have a go with that? Because I've got so many test prints of this thing now, I had enough time, because I wanted to make it look like malachite, which is kind of green with like sort of black flecks.
There's a picture on the LBP Instagram if anyone wants to see.
But that's just one bit that I did, because actually it works really well if you get the right spray paint. I was using Painter's Touch spray paint, which is the kind of mid-range spray paint you can get from B&Q or something here in Britain, or like metal paint. Metal spray paint seems to work like crazy. Like if I wanted to do like a rhino or something large with like complicated like dips and in the surface or something like that, it works really, really well. You've just got to make sure that the paint's good. And you can kind of tell when you spray it on the surface if it's going to work or not, because if it goes all like thick and gloopy and kind of separates, like goes all like curdled paint, then you fucked up. That's not going to work. But if it kind of sits on the top like kind of oil, you can just make a cool pattern, and then when you pull the thing out of the water, it just sticks to it, and it looks like. I was really impressed with how simple it was to make something that looked that good. So,
cool.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good side of your 3D printing, right? That we never really talked about is I'd be too scared to try any of that on a model that I bought. But because
to be fair, I do that anyway. I'm quite happy to do that to things that I bought anyway. To be fair, but yeah, it just worked really well. Definitely worth a go, and there's definitely some potential in there for like scenery or something, even like big pieces. It would work really good for. So I was thinking about doing like a little video just quickly about it, just because I was really like, wow, I wish I'd done this before I started pissing about with Matt's cotton wool idea or whatever it was. It's the news. Wow. It's the chuffing news.
Have you heard? 6s are now 4s.
It's the news.
Gene Stealer Limo's back.
News. First piece of news. You love models, right? Well, forget them, because you can't get them anymore. They're getting rid of a bunch of probably some of your favorite old models. They're gone. They're done. Forget about it. So we've got some real bangers in here, some real old school heavy hitters, and they're out the door. Games Workshop's not going to print them anymore. You're on your own.
Yeah, there's a whole selection of stuff here. Real fucking classic, iconic silhouettes of the old attack bikes, bike squads, land speeders. There's nothing more 40k than land speeders. The proper old school assault squads with the jetpacks, scouts. Christ knows, that's like 3 units from my Raven Guard army just gone. For me, from this, my Raven Guard army, I lose 2 units of scouts, 2 librarians, 2 tech marines, and 2 thunderfire cannons, 2 land speeders, and an assault squad. And no longer potentially.
So you
playable.
can't take librarians anymore.
Standard non-primaris librarian.
Oh, this is phasing out non-primaris versions of these things.
So the immediate response online was very negative. Oh, you've ruined it. I can't use half of my army anymore. It's all gone. I can't use it. But they clearly state in this that they're no longer producing these. And the majority of them, and what they've said is true, if you have these models, they now have Primaris versions, and you can just proxy these models as the Primaris versions, providing you change the base size. So if you've got 20 attack bikes, 20 bikes in a bike squad, Games Workshop have basically said, yeah, you should be able to proxy those as Outriders, which are the Primaris size bikes. If you've got a librarian, just proxy him as a Primaris librarian. So in terms of rules, it doesn't change all that much. I know some tournament scenes are going to be like, well, the bikes are smaller on the old ones than the Outrider bikes, and the silhouette is different for shooting. Maybe places will be that picky. But I think most of them you could just proxy if you're playing normal stuff. There are some things that don't have like a new version though, like the Thunderfire cannons.
Is the Tech Marine? Is he?
There's now a Primaris Tech Marine.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah. There's the Primaris Scouts, I guess, are infiltrators now. To be fair, the range is fucking massive, and there's no way they're going to keep producing all of the models when they've got sparkly new ones. It's always.
I'll be honest with you. I'm looking at these models, and there's some classics in here, but I really couldn't give a shit. It's not. I don't feel massively sentimental about these models, to be honest with you.
Yeah, this is when the news came out, I was completely unfazed. I mean, it's kind of like the Bretonnian army. Like, can't buy it in a Games Workshop. I can still collect it. I can still like it. I can still play with some people. Like my ancient Black Templar army that's got a load of these bikes, assault squads, all of the scouts and stuff. It's still a Black Templar army. It's a Black Templar army from prior to Primaris. They can't, they can't take that away from us. And I'd much rather Games Workshop concentrated on having less models to update rules for, and newer model ranges. That's what we want.
Absolutely.
When I saw everyone moaning about it, it was like, well, what do you want? Do you want Games Workshop to sell 30-year-old sculpts like the land speeder and the bikes are like literally 30 years old? Or do you want new stuff?
This stuff does look like crazy dated now. It's sort of fun to think that they're even selling this stuff alongside their new model. Like, really, it's kind of
Yeah, I mean, when you see the old dreadnoughts next to the Redemptor Dreads range now, they just look fucking stupid.
I mean, the old Dreadnought is a classic. It is one of those designs that people will hold forever.
And I think you can still use...
It's still a classic.
Venerable Dreads are still in the rules. Like 1 or 2 of the variants are still available.
And the 3D printing community has stepped in to give you bulked up, scaled up versions of the initial Dreadnought.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. There were so many comments in all of this, like, well, okay, here's the 3D print of these. You can just print them. You don't need to wait for Games Workshop in a year's time to do a like nostalgia reprint of all of these. I hope that as we said many times, we're not into the highly competitive play, but I hope for people who've lovingly made armies that competitive players aren't just going to get really arsy about the fact that the models are slightly smaller, and if someone turns up with a antique army they're not allowed to play. That would be
don't you
sad,
worry,
but
we know. Throw out your pens and papers because the Warhammer app is good now, and another LBP prediction has come true. Wickedy what's going on? The world's been turned upside down. The Warhammer 40k app is now only going to be available to Warhammer Plus subscription guys. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, it's gone behind a paywall wall, like we said, but it's a paywall that makes sense. If you pay for Warhammer Plus, you can use the list building app as part of it. What we don't know yet is as codexes get released and updates happen, will you have to pay extra for those updates, or will they be included in Warhammer Plus? My view is that they should very much be included in Warhammer Plus, because we're still, as far as I'm concerned, not getting enough content from Warhammer Plus for what was initially promised. They've trailed some new shows. There's a new cool looking Necron thing coming, Sister of Battle thing. There is a Space Marine in the coming on next year Warhammer trailer. Whether it's Astartes or not is very unclear from the half a second. But Matt, I don't know how you're feeling about Warhammer Plus, and you're also subscribed at this stage going into what will be year 3.
Yeah, I saw that we had an email, but I haven't read it until now. And it is roundabout now that our subscription regenerates, whatever the correct word is. I still think with the model that we get, it's still kind of worth it. I do wish there was like a bit more being pumped on it, but I really, really want to see the Necron show. We spoke about it a long time ago because they trailered it with the British accented Necrons, which looks perfect. So I think just for that, I'm going to allow my subscription. I mean, this is presuming the price is the same. I don't know.
Yes,
and they haven't previewed the model, have they?
It was silhouetted in the kind of coming preview. You know, it's a guard model. It's clearly.
I'm in. Sold. There we go.
Rolling in my 6-4.
So Abhumans, boys, that's it. It's time for us to talk about Abhumans. And wait a minute, is that the phone? I'll just answer this and see what's going on.
Hello, boys. It's Lord Solar Leontus here, and we've really got ourselves in a pickle over in the Segmentum Pacificus.
So you thought you'd call the best around, eh? The old LBP solving more imperial problems. We need to get this phone line disconnected, fool.
Well, you see, the Tyranids really are socking it to us after that royal cock-up of mine on Terra with the Cornate bastards. I can't afford another defeat. I bloody love this helmet, and if I lost it, I'd have to change all my Tinder profile pics. I tried ringing Cryptman for help, but the infuriating prick suggested I just call in exterminatus on the whole sector. When I said that was unacceptable, he gave me your number and hung up. You see, the Lids here really have developed a taste for my guardsmen, and the ranks are thinning. Do you have any suggestions for how we can flesh out the gaps, so to speak? They don't need to be the best looking or even the best fighters, but just hold the lines until the Emperor's shiniest golden boys turn up and upstage my armor. Send me a summary file when you can, and may his golden light bless you.
Goddamn Cryptman's giving out our fucking number again, boys. All right. Well, so you heard it. They've come to us, the best around, the LBP, to try to work out how to save the universe. Yet again, I might add. Well, I guess that we're going to have to get some of these abhumans that I've been reading so much about on board. We've tried the best. What about the rest? Let's get some of the Imperium's second finest. Get them.
I reckon so. There's no point sending the best of the best if they're just going to get eaten by the nids. Leontus clearly doesn't fucking know what he's doing. So let's fill some of those gaps with the dregs of the Imperium.
That's what I always say. Fill the gaps with dregs. Cool. So, I mean, there's some obvious ones, isn't there? I think everybody knows that you've got the ones that people know. So we've got ogryns, who are basically ogres, essentially, aren't they? They're big and dumb. They need to be kind of bossed around and pointed in a direction.
Hang on. I'm going to go into the detail of the ogryns.
Here's Matt, an Imperial Guards.
Yeah. Do you know what they're technically called? What's the genealogy name or whatever it's called?
They're all Homo sapiens and then something cheesy.
Yeah. So
Homo sapiens giganticus or stupidicus or something.
I remember squats are Homo sapien rotundus.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're still called that now in their codex. I bet they're not.
Well, they're not even squats, are they, anymore?
No.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. No, the ogryns are the Homo sapien gigantus. Yeah, the largest and most physically powerful type of abhuman. So let's start big. These are the big boys.
Big and
ogryns. Ogryns evolved on worlds with harsh and barren environments and high gravity, which is why they're so big, standing between 2.5 and 3 meters tall. So it's taller than a space marine. Some are well muscled, while others, interestingly, tend to be more grotesquely obese. Depending on the homeworld. Apparently, according to Imperial scholars, there are 7 different types of ogryn, which I didn't know. So there's a list on the internet if you want to look it up, but they're graded. So let's say number 1 is really obese, whereas number 7 is still very big but muscly. They are all, though, stupid, and they are repulsively unhygienic. Ogryns have earned such nicknames as fats, flabs, slobs. You can generally see them in the guard, as we have hinted at, as they make perfect close assault troops. But they are also a bit dim, which also makes them good for the guard. Once introduced into the Imperial cult, they have a childlike fondness for the Emperor. And any orders that they receive, they, in their childlike mindset, they almost make themselves believe that officer has been ordered by the Emperor to give them that order. So they follow every order
only one
to
step
the
away
T.
from the Emperor.
Yeah, basically in their childlike mindset. But the most intellectual individuals among them do go through an augmentative chemical process called biochemical ogryn neural enhancement, which in short is bone, which is why if you're a long-time guard player, you'll know that you can, in an ogryn squad, select a leader, a sergeant if you like, and they are known as boneheads. And that's why, because they've been surgically enhanced.
Right, so they get given some more brain cells in that process.
Yeah, one more brain cell. Yeah. I've got a special character that I'll mention in a minute, who is a bonehead. But unlike your typical human regiments of the guard that will come from whole planets or field regiments, so they're all native to the same society. Ogryns, you don't get regiments of ogryn, you get units, so they kind of get split up into units, and they'll be attached to human regiments, as I say, as close support troops or as bodyguards. They make excellent bodyguards because they feel intense loyalty to officers under their command. And ogryns do have a particular respect for commissars, which is interesting, who they see as the closest representation to their beloved emperor. So again, it's that kind of childlike brain. I mean, they're a bit like, what's that of Mice and Men? They're like
Lenny.
they're a bit like that.
Lenny.
Yeah.
Look at the rabbits.
Yeah. They're they are naturally claustrophobic, however. And this, again, if you're a guard player, you'll know that there is a special
They can't
rule.
go in transports, right? Is that right?
No,
It's dark in there.
It's
is that
dark,
right?
dark in there. So yeah, we spoke about that recently. I can't remember why, but maybe the commissar episode. Yeah, commissars used to make them pass that test, and they would get in the chimeras. But they're also modified, so they're used not just by the guard, they'll be modified by the Adeptus Mechanicus into servitors. So giant where they need great size.
These poor gentle folk. They're so big, and all they really want to do is just sounds like they just want to live an innocent life of like you say, lennying it up, playing with buddies and stuff,
and they get lobotomized.
Lobotomizes them and tells them to fight everybody.
They will also be enslaved as miners again, because they're just big and they can do lots of heavy lifting.
Why not? Why not at this stage?
In game, they're like two squad types, though, right? There's the ones with the big shields and sticks, and then ones with big heavy weapons. Is that right?
Yeah. So for very, very long, for a very, very long time, since I don't know the first Guard Codex, you could field ogryns as a unit type, normally an elite choice, depending on the codex, as a bodyguard. But very recently, as Games Workshop like to do, they introduced a second unit type so that the kit gave you more options, and they are known as bullgryns, and they are, they're just an ogryn with loads of armor on, essentially, right. And kind of wound up a bit, but they're not. But ogryns and bullgryns are not the only type of ogryn that you get. There are other types of ogryns. There were ogryn Channerites, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, which were used by the Solar Auxilia during the Great Crusade. So just like in the Guard Codexes, they've always been there. In the lore, they've always been in some form of the Imperial Army, fighting with their standard humans. They also fought on both sides of the heresy. Apparently, the so-called traitor ogryns during the heresy were kind of convinced to believe that they were fighting traitors, so they were just tricked into it, basically, because they're too stupid, and they follow the emperor too much.
Thorax that signed up with Kurz. They basically joined the Night Lords to fight against the Dark Angels. Kurz just got a load on board.
What convinced them?
That like he was closer to the Emperor than the Lion, which I guess is easy to convince an ogryn.
I was just that if someone says that to you, that's they're a bit of maybe this is why ogryns are not fielded in regiments, because as much as having dumb troops can be beneficial, at the same time having dumb troops that can be easily swayed is not good.
Well, I think that they do fall to chaos quite often.
What
I hear is that, because you just kind of go, if your captain's fallen to chaos, then he just goes like, hey, it's time to worship these guys. And the poor simple ogryn is like, yes, absolutely,
put your dick in this porcupine.
Exactly. Like,
well, that's a very good point. And until recently, there was only, apart from the Blast from the Past that we'll get into, there was only it was only in the lore, the Chaos Ogryns. But of course, there was a Chaos Ogryn in the Blackstone Fortress. The Chaos Ogryn that comes in the Blackstone Fortress. So that's a plastic Games Workshop kit. Excellent really cool model.
Like a Bane mask, isn't it? Like a kind of,
it is like a Bane. Fat Bane. But when they are Chaos Ogryns, they are sometimes known as Ogryn Brutes.
Bane. He's like breathing too hard because he's like sweating. He's like, just like eating a fucking eclair. He like takes his mask off, but it's full of crisps.
But not only, and I don't know, there's something actually, as we've kind of insinuated in some form or another, with Of Mice and Men, etc. But there's something kind of sad about them, because a lot of the Chaos Ogryns are convinced by Chaos Renegades, not just that they're fighting for the goodies, but that they then kind of experiment on them, and they pump them with crude they do crude surgical procedures, pump them with combat drugs, and do sorcerous rituals to them to just basically they just turn into
They're
like
too pure for this world. Oh, those ogryns.
there should be like an imperial charity that like saves ogryns.
yeah.
Gives them like chocolate
Rehabilitates
bars.
them.
yeah,
There's like some shit farm somewhere with a bunch of stinky
every
ogryns.
minute there's an ogryn that's dying in pain.
I'm thinking of Sloth from the Goonies. And he like gives him the chocolate bar, and he's like, "Oh, get out of this."
Yeah. But as well as chaos ogryns, you can also get feral ogryns, which are worlds that are so far beyond the imperial cult that many in the Imperium see them as little better than orcs, because they are just big muscly things, but it's just like a feudal world except with ogryns, basically, in a way. And apparently imperial forces kind of swoop in, and they'll take some of them and just keep them in the hold of a ship and then deploy them in a war zone, because these guys are like, they're not fighting for any side. They don't know anything about the emperor, but they're just really, really, really strong. So in a kind of way, it's kind of like slavery.
Oh, yeah.
Like these, getting stolen from their family and just thrown.
It's like how they used to go and
powder.
find like the biggest guy from a little village in Roman times and put him in a Colosseum.
Yeah.
You know, just like you are the biggest thing we've got, so we'll put you at the front.
so that happens to them as well. these poor people. But some modern current law is that since the Great Rift, there are rumors of psychic ogryns, which I'd never heard of. And there is, so this has come about recently in a novel, in the Black Library novel, Gazgul Thraka, Prophet of the War. Apparently in there's an inquisitor that has a retinue, and one of them is a female psychic ogryn, which is quite interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, and I don't know whether that's certainly the first case or example of a female ogryn that's been officially written about, but that is quite interesting. And I don't know, it's something about the Inquisitor kind of helps her be as safe as she can be being a psyker, because being dumb and being a psyker is not really a kind of good mix, I don't think.
Unless you're an orc, in which case it's great. Turns out all right.
Yeah. There are other ogryns that I'm just reading my notes here, that are artificially created through the use of the necromunda drug Gast, which I think we've spoken about before, and they're called awakened ogryn. Right. So do they just get humans and give them a drug and they just all like explode? That's like the Hulk.
Guess a similar abhuman into that, in terms of necromunda, the Goliaths, right? So the House Goliath are used quite a lot, because they're like vat grown big ass guys.
Big people.
So there must be a bit of crossover there between the vat grown House Goliaths that are often used to fill imperial ranks and these awakened ogryns. Yeah.
You can also get plague ogryns, which is quite an interesting read. But I just wanted to mention, he's probably one of the most, for Guard players, probably one of the most famous characters in the Guard army that's ever existed, and that is Nork Deadog. This is an Ogryn character that for many codices you could use in your army. He kind of had a model. He's not in the latest version of the Imperial Guard Codex, which is a shame. But the kit, the Ogryn kit, still has instructions to make him out of plastic. Although, as I say, he did used to have a kind of a metal model. But by Ogryn standards, Nork is a genius, given that he can write his name, or at least the first initial, count as high as 4, and even speak in short sentences. Amazing. He's probably the most famous Ogryn, and he's just been around for ages. He kind of has a bit of a cult following, in my opinion, in Imperial Guard circles. I've never actually used him in a game. He's always had stupid, silly rules. He kind of used to be a bodyguard, if I remember correctly, before you could have bodyguards. So he would stand next to your officer and just always die before your officer did.
Yeah.
There, a long time ago, there'd always be golden demons, and people would convert him. He was just a very popular character.
I hope to see him again.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, there's still instructions in the current plastic kit. So I haven't even looked on the latest 10th edition. Maybe there are rules for him. It's just he's not in the codex.
Probably in Legends, like loads of
other
stuff.
Maybe. He saved hundreds of lives, if not thousands, of officers and troopers. He's earned him a vast range of medals, and he's notable among Imperial officers. But he doesn't fight for the medals. He just fights for the satisfaction of his superiors, which reminded me. So, I mean, you can probably tell just reading this last night. I found my love of ogryns. They're just so funny. But that
you never use them.
No,
so many times. You've never used an ogryn.
Because until I did the Christmas paint all of my pile of shame guard models, I'd never actually built one. That last bit reminded me of Forrest Gump. Well, here's a quote from Norg. He says, "The sergeant major asked me what my job was, and I said it was to do what I was told. He said I was a genius, and he gave me another medal. I liked the Imperial Guard." And that kind of reminded me of that. No, you're a goddamn genius. You must have a goddamn IQ of 160. You're a goddamn gifted private guard.
Yeah.
That's
it is very funny
to have a conversation recorded with like him and Gazgul just sat around the fire.
Yeah.
I think it is quite funny, isn't it? Because like obviously, we've talked about it countless times, but how like the early Warhammer stuff was just like ripping off the fantasy stuff essentially, and it is just like somehow the ogryns just fit so well in the 40k universe.
Yeah.
Get up off of that thing!
Another thing I think that's been around for a long time and goes back to Horus Heresy times that is also in fantasy is beastmen as humans.
Oh yeah,
I think are really cool. Homo sapiens varietas. I guess.
Oh, is that what they're called?
Yeah,
varietas.
And they first appeared in the Age of Strife, which is after the Dark Age of technology, and there were loads of them in the Guard. It was pretty normal to have these beastmen in the Guard. Because they were making up for the sin of being born a mutant.
They had whole regiments of them.
Yeah. And the thing was that, okay, we will let you be part of Imperial society, but you've got to go and fight because it's like, it's not right. It wouldn't have been sin then because there was no religion at that time, but like, you're not right and therefore you have to serve. And then they got done a really bad deal because so many of them ended up being close to chaos. And I've never even thought about this before until I was reading it earlier, that Zangors are Tzeentch beastmen. And that there are other things, blood gores, which are cornate ones. You can have slangors, and you can have pestigors, which are the run-in bull ones on the Blood Bowl team for Nurgle. So they're all like chaos variations of beastmen. And then Minotaurs are like really big, swelled up chaos versions. So you've got that real crossover in the demons there. You can see Zangors and pestigors. Like, they've never made slangors that I'm aware of, but that would be pretty cool. But because so many of them, exactly. Yeah,
sexy goat.
But because they were so likely to be turned to chaos, that they're now pretty on edge. They're not really inducted into the Guard anymore. They've kind of been dealt a raw hand really and left to kind of get on with it as outcasts.
It is, again, we've often talked about the kind of the hypocrisy in the Imperium and stuff, but it is like, kill the mutant, but at the same time there is like this certain level of mutation which is just accepted, because I think like, if you're out working on some weird feral world where you're just harvesting some crazy like mineral ore out of the ground, and then it's like, oh yeah, that guy's just blue or whatever. He's just been turned blue because he worked some weird horrible job down a mine, and that's just we're okay with that. That's a mutation enough. But when it's like, oh well, I'm pretty sure that sexy goat is starting to turn to Slanesh, then bam,
Yeah.
that's when you've got to start cracking down on it.
I think it's the horns, you know. I don't want a Stoney's esoteric review, but maybe in the future you can tell us why the horns are so
Oh wow, there you
revived.
go. Yeah.
On your blue point there, though, Stoney, there is a blue race of abhumans. They're called the Lazule, as in Lazure.
Lapis
Lazuli or whatever, yeah. And all I could find out about them was that they are indeed blue skinned, and maybe they banged a towel or two. That might be.
Maybe, yeah. That's always an awkward conversation when your wife gives birth to a blue baby and you've got a towel milkman. That's gonna be tricky. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I've got a couple here which I got out of a really good book actually, The Lieben Xenologist, which is written from the point of view of a rogue trader. He just writes about stuff that he sees.
It's Drake.
It's Drake
Jailer
from
Drake,
Blackstone
the guy
Fortress.
from Blackstone
That's
Fortress
right. Yeah, and he's a really funny character. Like to read, like the stuff that he writes in the book is really funny. And like one of the things that he writes about is a race of people called the Pleger or the Pelger. Have you heard about them? The
Pelagers.
The Pelagers, yeah, the kind of mermen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they can breathe any liquid, he says, apparently.
Yeah. Which is really crazy. And he meets them and ends up utilizing them in the Blackstone Fortress to swim through a sea of tar.
Games Workshop.
Pretty nuts. Yeah.
Where are the models for those?
Yeah. I want them.
But apparently they've also got such hard skin that you can hit them with a sword and it won't do anything. It's like hitting an armored car, he describes it as. Yeah. So they were pretty cool.
Yeah. Their muscles are they're just really strong, aren't they? And they've got gills.
It. Yeah, it's their muscles can't be broken. Yeah. They
sound. Yeah, I'd love to see them as more. I mean, I think we're going to say that about 20 times during this episode.
Yeah.
I want models of all of this.
The other ones that I thought were quite good were the Truth. The Truth. Have you heard? Did you hear of them?
No, I didn't see.
What are they?
Them.
So the Truth, or the TROOF, are like tree men essentially. Okay. So they've got like bark-like skin. And they could like stand really still for like hours at a time and like suck nutriments out of the soil.
Amazing, like dryads in fantasy, I guess.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. The other ones that he talks about, maybe we should talk a little bit about gland warriors.
Yeah, there's a gland warriors are one of many. Maybe we should talk about all the ones that are kind of mutated on purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the gland warriors are, they just basically try. It's a way of trying to make humans more like space marines, isn't it? And there's been a couple of projects over the years to try to accomplish something like this, make your average man into your cool space marine man, but through the simple use of chemicals and eating broccoli and having cold showers.
The gland warriors have got glands inserted into them that release slort, frenzon, and spur, which we've talked about all of them before, but it's basically the same cocktail that the Eversaw assassin gets drip fed.
He's on a speedball of space drugs.
Yeah. And these
combat drugs.
Actually pretty relevant for what Leontus has asked us to do, because they were first invented by tech priests on Dantris 3, and they were originally made by the tech priests to fight the Tyranids. So there'd been a Tyranid incursion there, and the tech priests were like, we can't make space marines, what can we do? We'll just take someone's skull off and put a load of frenzon glands in there and hope that they beat the Tyranids. And there's now a model for these guys, right? I mean, there was an old one, but the new inquisitorial kill team has one of these guys with the fighting glaive and the metal skull cap.
Head. He's got like a skull cap thing.
Yeah. But they're not the only ones that are adapted, because there's also these Afrial strain.
Oh, yeah.
Homo sapiens maledictus. Which...
Yeah, these guys are hilarious.
Like, they're genetically modified. They're given, like, all of the things that make heroic members of the Imperium heroic. And they've turned out albinos with blonde hair and colourless eyes who are automatically hated by all others.
Yeah.
And start off really well and then... always hit by like really random bad luck.
That's it. They say that they're for some reason just like incredibly unlucky. Like they're just the universe has just decided they shouldn't be allowed to exist somehow. It's like and apparently people hate them, and being deployed on a mission alongside them is seen as a death sentence. It's like a suicide mission. They're essentially kind of like the Chuckle Brothers of 40k, where they'll be kind of like, you know, one of them will drop a las gun and it will shoot the other one in the head, and then he'll go and try to pick it up, and his trousers will fall down, and you know. But it's again, Drake had a really good quote about them, which is, "It is clear that great men have a lot to teach lesser men, but trying to combine the two is a fool's errand."
I like that. Yeah. You've made heroes, but they're shit at inspiring people.
Well, they're just because they're made out of like the genes of like all great men or something combined, aren't they? Something
they've all
like
got
that.
a bit of Solar Macarius in them, like old Lord Solar. Maybe if our boy Leontus does well based on our advice, there'll be a bit of his genes in him in the future.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a shit bit of all their DNA. They just got like a crap bit. But yeah, they are very funny, and it would be like, I mean, it would be quite a fun kit bash thing, because they're all massive as well, aren't they? They're all like huge, like hulking, like fucking chunked up
Adonises,
yeah, basically. But just can't tie their own shoelaces without breaking their fingers.
Ratlings, I think everyone has a little bit of a soft, well, I don't know, I say everyone, I have got a little soft spot for a ratling. I mean, they're just hobbits in space. We mentioned about how Games Workshop have this 40k fantasy connection, and this is clear beyond just Warhammer.
From that. Yeah, definitely.
They've got full-on hairy feet. I'm looking at Rain and Rouse next to me, and they're like fully sculpted.
It's like, I mean, it literally is like they enjoy eating food. They're jolly guys who play the penny whistle.
They can't be seen. People don't recognise that they're there.
Well, these are Homo sapien minimus. They're the smallest. The smallest human ancestors, now known as abhumans. But the cooking connection, I mean, the Rouse and Rain and Rouse, the figures from Blackstone Fortress, they have, one of them has got the fridge on the back, which is quite cool, and loads of pots and pans.
It's like Sam Gamgee.
Although Rain and Rouse are twins, but I mean, they're probably the only twin models in 40k. So that's quite cool.
What about, they've got an Alfarius model, I think, don't they?
You're right. Yeah.
Could use that for
both.
Right.
Yeah. I was doing a bit of reading about ratlings, and it was kind of, this has never been written in the codexes, and this does come from legitimate Games Workshop sources. But when I was reading what people were saying about them online and watching some YouTube videos that people had made about ratlings, it's really weird, because there was one thing that connected all of them that basically said that they were sexually promiscuous and like horny little buggers. And it's like, what? I've never read this, but it is, if you read it online, the source material is listed as Games Workshop sources that basically just say they're kind of really randy. And I mean, that's not written in the Lord of the Rings, is it? The hobbits aren't fucking.
We all know what really went down on Mount Doom.
Precious.
There wasn't just one ring involved there, I can tell
you. And this goes into like the lore about their home world. So they don't just come from one world, kind of like the ogryns. There's different home worlds of the ratlings, but they all have this weird connection of so that it says that they're idle, hedonistic, gregarious, over-friendly, and sexually promiscuous. I mean, what? A ratling? Why? Why does that make any? Why did?
They say about big feet. That's
do you know what? That's got to be why that's written into the law like 30 years ago, that they have massive feet, and that's Are
there any female ratlings in a rattling squad? You're the only person I know with an actual original rattling squad.
Not that I know of. I've never heard of a female rattlings in in Black Library lore or anything.
They've got to be around somewhere if they're all
they
this
must be,
promiscuous,
yeah.
I guess, unless they're all just.
Oh, was
But
there?
then has
Was
it-
there a
I don't know.
female model?
They come across like the Fred West of the Warhammer world, the ratlings. You know, they've got
Yeah.
the big hairy feet, a bit shady.
Yeah.
But in general, people are like, oh, they're just jovial dudes. Little do
Well-
you know, they're sexual deviants.
I mean, exactly. They kind of they make friends. They join, same as the ogryns. They're kind of not in regiments. They join up in units, join the guard because they're really small. They're not very good soldiers, but they are because of that proficient at long range shooting. So they are always deployed as snipers. They're good at hiding. Rain and Rouse, the Blackstone Fortresses models, one of them's got a big sniper rifle, one of them's got a grappling hook, so he's the spotter. For as long as I can remember, you can use them in the guard army. They've always been very effective as snipers, very cheap snipers. They'll run away if any of them die. But when they join regiments in the guard, everyone loves them because they do all the cooking.
They're sucking
And they're really
everyone's
good at
dick by
cooking.
the sound of it, and running around all over the place, making food and sucking dick.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I don't know whether there's any. Since we've been saying Rain and Rouse, I don't know if there's any folklore behind the banging, constant banging of the ratlings either. But there's a Rammstein song called Rain Rouse. And I've always wondered what it means. Yeah. And I've just looked up the Rammstein lyrics. So Rain Rouse means in and out.
Oh,
So there's
That is
snipers
excellent.
in and out.
there's a sniper team called In and Out. Yeah,
Even
brilliant.
if that wasn't it, the first verse of the Rammstein song, Rain Rouse, is I'm the rider, you're the horse. I get on, we start riding. You moan, I tell you. An elephant in the eye of an needle. In, out, Rain Rouse, Rain Rouse.
Oh, man.
God, it's like it could have been written about ratlings. It's nuts.
Yes, man.
The 70s, the 80s,
The 90s.
Oh, we're going back in time.
Is that a space squad?
It's time we take you back with a blast from the past.
So, the book that gave us a full Deathcore of Krieg codex for the first time, introducing the resin range to Forge World, Imperial Armor Volume 5, The Siege of Rax Part 1, that's a long title, also had a Renegade Army list. And as part of the Renegade Army list, Forge World made some Renegade models, including Chaos Ogryns. I fell in love with the artwork that was in the book of the Chaos Ogryns, but then the models were really cool. This is like 2004, 2005. So when these models came out, they were really, really, really interesting.
Yeah.
No longer sold, and they're just really cool. A whole range, basically a whole squad. There was 5 models of big resin ogryns that had with gas masks on, that have got, they're kind of like the later Gene Stealer cult models that have, actually one of them has a club made of a road sign.
Yeah.
So it is very
Big
much
bit of
like
concrete on the end.
and they're all about mining. Some of them have got mining gears on. There's one like guy that's got like the big hammer jack thing that you see on the ends of a JCB that's basically on his arm, that is his hand. He's been amputated and he's got one of those things for cutting into rock. Yeah. Very cool. And they've all got gas masks on.
This was a really cool, the old Forge World, like Chaos Renegade kit was really cool. They used to have that kind of like propaganda guy that had a bunch of speakers and stuff like that.
Really?
And these Ogryn, they're so weird and misshapen with those weird like bag hat heads on and like dragging axes and stuff. It's cool.
Yeah.
Proper sacks over their face. They remind
Oh,
me of,
yeah.
I don't know whether this was before or after the Scarecrow in the Chris Nolan Batman.
Or the
Probably
original
before.
Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are
Really great models. Have you
cool.
ever found these on eBay, man? I'd love these.
No, I mean, they as you say, Stoney, they were part of like a range of models, and they were really short lived. I mean,
They weren't that short-lived,
Oh,
were
they-
they? I
they
remember
were,
seeing
they
them
were.
into, like, I remember these were one of the things back when I was sort of starting to get back into Warhammer. I remember seeing these and being like, "Oh, I'd love to have some." And all that cool Chaos Renegade set. Like I said, they used to have all these weird guys. Like they had a guy that had he had like a stick with a bunch of like loudspeakers on it and all this kind of stuff, and it was all kind of like sort of like hinted at being a bit nurgly. Like I don't know if you could see this guy's mask has got the three eyes on in like the nurgle kind of pattern.
Yeah.
And then they had like this guy who had the stick with the speakers on was in the nurgle patterning and all this kind of stuff. So it was like, you know, I mean, these models, they do just beg out to be painted green and big gungy and stuff, you know.
I don't know. I mean, I swear they were kind of around, and then like the range would get smaller, and then they disappeared. Whereas the Deathcore Krieg just kind of took off.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
no, it definitely didn't stick around in the same way.
You could actually, I mean, yeah, you could probably get them on eBay. You couldn't, like, you wouldn't want to strip them because you could melt the resin, whatever.
Yeah.
But
I'd love to see the full range again. Now.
Oh yeah,
like, yeah.
But you could make this army by using Gene Steel occult stuff, couldn't you? And just
definitely
converting it back into chaos.
All those weapons.
Yeah.
In the cults and in the aberrants. Really cool models, though. Thanks, man.
Yeah, very cool.
They existed.
Abhumanism affects 1 in 5 citizens of the 40th millennium. Toxic working conditions, enforced chem usage, surgical experimentation are all common causes for abhumanism. What starts as a bit of a rash can soon turn into a debilitating heresy. This is the story of one such abhuman.
Hi, my name's Tony and I'm an abhuman.
In this section, we will explore what it means to be abhuman. The names and voices will be changed to protect the identities of those involved.
Well, I guess it all started in my old job as an Imperial slime tester, where it was my job to drink the slimes that were found in the Imperial mines, see if they were toxic or not. It was quite a good job, all things considered, but it did have some adverse side effects.
And what are these side effects you were talking about?
You see, one time we found this big bucket of ancient slime in the vaults of Terra. Of course, they called me to have a taste to see what it was all about. And what do you know? It turns out that slime was the fermented remains of every Top Gear VHS tape known to man. And then wallop. Ever since that day, my broadcasting style has been compared to that of Jeremy Clarkson.
Did this heinous mutation affect your life?
As you well know, Jeremy Clarkson's mind was downloaded into the British Broadcasting House computer circa M31, so that he might be able to continue to write columns for The Sun long into the future. But as a result of his abrasive middle-class bluster, his Sun column has managed to upset everybody over the centuries. I'm talking truckers, I'm talking space marines, I'm talking the unemployed, foreigners, women, men, non-binary people, binary people, aliens, humans, animals, and of course when they hear my voice on the end of the phone or trying to do a podcast or something daft like that, they give me the business.
That must be terrible.
It is, especially as I'm not even really that much like Clarkson. I'm actually far more of a snivelling Richard Hammond type, living in the shadows, coming out only to purchase bootcut jeans and leather jackets, before running home to wank in my mahogany man cave. I drive a Peugeot for heaven's sake, so stop comparing me to Jeremy Clarkson. It's just duh.
So there you have it, the plight of the abhuman. Together, we can stop people from developing embarrassing shit diseases, like sounding a bit like Jeremy Clarkson.
I smoke weed, eat pussy every day.
So what about have we talked about the cat men?
Oh, the felinids.
Is that what they're called? The felinids?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the cat men, because they're the coolest, right? We've got 2 cat lovers at least on this show, and Welshie who hates everything fun, and as a result hates cats.
Absolutely. But as we've discovered previously on the podcast, maybe I'm a furry.
Yes.
Which if I was, I would refer to myself as Homo sapien hirsutus, which is their name. They're just massive furry lion men, as in what's the TV show? They cat hulks. What was it?
What?
Thundercats.
Oh, Thundercats. Yeah.
They're basically Thundercats. They've got massive claws and they're cat people. They live on a planet. I don't know whether this is bullshit, but on like the wiki, they come from a planet called Carlos McConnell. And
What?
That's
an excellent name.
Real, or whether someone's edited like Whammer wiki.
Right.
But there's very little about them. But I'm glad you brought them up, Stoney, because it's been a while since we've had any Warhammer 40k fan fiction.
Let's have it.
And if anything was going to inspire some erotic fan fiction, it would be feline-esque Warhammer people. So I did a little look, and this has got nothing to do with my potential furry nature. I found a story on Warhammer fan fiction site called "The Final Saga of Matcha the Ever Virgin: Extra Large Heresy," and this is by a guy called Aginisi08. Have you guys delved down this Matcha the Ever Virgin rabbit hole before? And Matt, you're going to like this because it links with something you absolutely love. Can you tell me where Farseer Matcha is from?
No.
He links with top man Gabriel Angelos.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so she
no,
the Farseer in Dawn of War 3. Okay, I know this sounds like I'm going off topic, and I am. But the 1D4 chan goes absolutely nuts for this Farseer that is in Dawn of War and has made loads of like porn about her, and she's like the meme one. If you've ever seen that green armored Eldar Farseer with the cute little pixie face and the red lines under her that looks a bit like Ivrain, and those memes, that's her. So there's loads of fiction, and this is like the final part of an erotic fan fiction about Matcha the Farseer, which all started years ago when people were saying in Dawn of War that she was banging Gabriel Angelos. So before Gilliman and before
it's always been around.
It's always been around. So let me just give you a little bit of background to the story, and then we'll get
there
to the
must be
bit.
like there has to be, you know, if you're one of these Space Marines or whatever, you've got to go at some stage. Like you've just been trapped with a bunch of stinky dudes that have all got their dicks surgically cut off or whatever. At some stage, you've got to be like, "Come on, guys, the Elder are hot, right? Like, come on." I mean, like, we could, you know, surely, but who knows?
So here's a little bit of background for the story before we get to the feeling bit, because I feel like it's important. So Matcha is the Farseer, and she's with she's dating a Inquisitor. She says, "Say my name," Matcha bellowed, flipping upright and pouncing on the acolyte like a wild Grinx. "Say," she pinned him once more beneath her body. "My," she ripped his shirt with her bare hands, stray buttons flying across the carpet. "Name." With that final pronouncement, she slammed him down, golden eyes shining with feral intensity. The human merely frowned. "You say mine," he insisted quietly. "I asked you first, little one." "Very good, Leon," she cooed as she reached down to slide her smooth fingers into the front of his pants, gently teasing them past his now aching package and along his thighs behind her. "Nothing will deny me this now," she mutters. "Did you get this far with Chapter Master Angelus?" Ferdinand asked cautiously. Matcha laughed hard enough that she stopped bothering to get her panties off her other leg. "Of course not, fool," she said once she had finished laughing, having apparently decided that having her panties on one leg was good enough. "He was what we would call..." And then she says an elder word Vertinen did not know. It translates literally to empty wraithbone, but it's about the same as celibate. The Eldar then looked down and smirked. "Luckily, your wraithbone seems to be pretty full." Then just as suddenly as she had laughed, her face turned stern as she glared dangerously at him. So this then goes on to be the point where she loses her virginity after 4,000 years in front of her Inquisitor, and then becomes essentially his kind of mistress. So let me give you her description of the felinid.
Go on then.
So she's essentially now encouraging the Inquisitor to sleep with a felinid member of his team. She says to the felinid, "Now finish what you started, little kitten. If I like what I see, I even may allow you to fill my needs as well." Now that Matcha took a long look at her, even she had to admit that the lieutenant had her own charming points. Her musculature was among those where the Farseer herself was lithe and graceful. The felinid was compact and powerfully built, certainly not heavy-set by any stretch of the imagination, but she was clearly stronger than her frame would lead one to believe. She even had little cuts in her fur along her stomach, dividing the muscle into 8 parts that practically ran down to her pink little labia. Her biceps did not bulge. It showed clear evidence of life spent in training. Her lightly tanned skin was even, with barely discernible shadows where her underthings usually covered her, and her brown hair and brilliant sparkling blue eyes were rather fetching as she frowned. "I've never done this," the felinid reminded them, snapping Matcha out of her envious stare. The felinid's tail swished once in nervous anticipation. Her biceps and thighs danced beneath her skin as she turned to sit on the edge of the bed. Matcha even caught a glimpse of the felinid's firm little arse, briefly remembering what it was like for Verniton to do to her what he was about to do to the felinid. If she had felt that tight, she must be amazing.
And then Fat Bane came in.
Fat Bane!
So, yeah, this goes on and on and on like this, from Matcha the Farseer finally losing her virginity to essentially becoming like this, like getting various women of various forms, including felinids, and then being like semi-cuckold / being a dominatrix in various positions. It's an excellent read. And I think it's probably all we need to say about felinids. What the fuck? So other things that are weird that I found were the Nightsiders. Did you guys see the Nightsiders?
Did, yeah. With like Echo, they like live on the sunless planet.
Yeah, or the planets that don't rotate, they live on the sunless side.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah, that's right.
Darkness.
Yeah.
And
They're pretty cool. They've got like they use like sonar, like echolocation.
Oh, cool. Like dolphins.
Or they look like Gollum and they've got massive eyes. It said that some of them, and I thought this would be a really cool thing to paint. I'm going to have a crack at this and maybe even sculpt a thing with big eyes. That they've got transparent skin. Like
cool.
Like those things that live in caves. You know, those like fish that live in
Yeah,
caves.
yeah.
That never had any light.
Yeah, but they have they've got a chemical luminescence in their blood as well, so they can like sort of flash in the night, in the dark and stuff, like an deep sea fish.
Yeah, described as luminous appendages, which made me laugh.
You're just still everything's dark, and this guy's knob just goes like
drawing people into his luminous appendage.
Yeah.
You
eat too much. Cool. You eat too much Subway, and the next day your arsehole's just like flashing red
every time.
Yeah,
and they've been used before by a guard in like if they've got to fight in underground tunnels or like in the nighttime. I think these guys should be used all the time. We should send Leontus some of these because you're never going to beat Tyranids in the dark if you can't see anything. It's just not going to happen. Whereas these guys might stand a chance.
Yeah, they do sound pretty cool.
I thought they were great.
I came across the Tithes Chamber Notaries Planetary Census, which I'd never heard of before. Yeah, which is a subdivision of the Administratum, and it deals exclusively with abhuman affairs, a bit like the Ministry of Funny Walks, but for abhumans. And they... Basically, their task is the classification of recognized abhuman strains, and there are constant revisions as to what the recognized separate strains are in the human population. And there are fierce debates apparently within the organization that take place pertaining the status of many of the abhuman strains, apparently particularly the ogryns. So I don't know why they keep arguing. I don't know. I mean, is the Imperium fat shaming, or are they just big boned? I don't know. Do they really count as abhuman, or they're just big?
How big do you have to be before you're counted as anogryn?
Yeah.
Like how,
Yeah.
But
what if you're really small?
Yeah.
You're not just a ratling by
But maybe it's because what you were saying earlier about there now being these chaos ogryn. It sounds like might happen. They might go the way of the Beastmen as soon as there's chaos tape and corruption is linked to these mutations.
Yeah, tricked. Yeah,
they're gone. They're out the window. Like the Scalies, I feel like they've never got a chance. These lizard men that live under Necromunda.
Yeah.
And they should be used all the time. We should start breeding the Scalies. They can regenerate limbs. They're like near impossible to kill.
Well, they're actually classed as subhumans. I don't know if you guys...
What's the difference?
Well, that they're like abhumans are like, okay, we're kind of okay with these guys. They're all right. Subhumans are like, we just can't let these guys in. They're like scalies and things like that. And also the Neandor, which are like a group of people who live in the sump in Necromunda, who have more or less essentially regressed to caveman-esque. They've got big foreheads and wear loincloths and go around like just being cavemen kind of thing. But they're also like immune to a bunch of weird diseases and things.
And they're really strong as well. I think maybe this kind of stupidity makes it easier to fall to chaos, because there were these guys I was reading about called the Thug Rock Goliaths that were like a whole planet of these big...
That sounds like a spicy chicken burger or something.
The Thug Rock Goliath. Can you get it for free if you can eat it all?
Well, some things pretty much did eat them all, destroy them all. They were like, it was a planet that was really favored by the Guard for drawing troops from, because they weren't quite ogryns, they were just like massive dudes. But it got infiltrated by like a Chaos Blood cult, and the Officio Assassinorum sent 6 Eversors to the planet and then forgot that they were there. And by the time they went back to the planet, the 6 Eversors, there was only 1 Eversor left, and all of the Thug Rock Goliaths were dead. 6 Eversors had killed the entire population. Apparently, the Guard were really pissed off because they were like, "This is a great place. Couldn't you have just taken the cult out?"
Destroyed everything.
There's a few that have got quite sad endings. Like the other ones that I saw with quite sad endings were the Longshanks.
Oh, have they gone? Are they? I was reading.
Well, they're not completely gone, but there was like a big population of them. So Longshanks are like low gravity, so they just grow really tall, and they're quite imposing, and they can walk really fast because they're just massive. And then there was in the War of the Beast books, apparently, the Beast, who's a big orc warlord, enslaves a load of Longshanks because he likes them, because he thinks they look funny. So he enslaves them to work for them. And then the Beast gets attacked by the Black Templars, and the Black Templars free all of the Longshanks, and then like a week later execute them all because they don't think they're pure enough. The Black Templars come down, defeat the orcs, free the Longshanks, and then execute them.
Well, I thought what's quite cool about them is they're called Longshanks because they use like what they use as like a knife is essentially like longer than a purse. It's like a they've got these like massive long like knives, but because they're really tall themselves, it's like a sword compared to like a human, you know. So they call them Longshanks.
Oh, that's nice. I guessed it was just because their legs are long, like a lamb shank.
Yeah.
Well, they call them sexy legs. We
need to get one of those in Match's boudoir.
That's like the Tau Aircast are all really long and thin.
They're lanky ones.
I mean, we should, as sad as these stories have been, there are many, like we've said about the ogryns and ratlings, many abhumans have slightly happier stories, but obviously there's one strain that has succeeded, that has thrived.
I know what it's going to be, and we've done a whole episode.
We have.
You're talking about navigators.
I am. Go and listen to the episode.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about navigators now. They've got a third eye.
Navigators.
Come on. I mean, it's relevant to the episode.
Okay.
That's it. So
navigators. Navigators are classed as abhuman because they're a strain of humanity. They've got a third eye, but they're acceptable because they are a requirement, a necessity. And they have got rich on that necessity. Their families on Terra are some of the most powerful families on Terra that can date their lineage back probably longer than the Imperium.
Yeah. Okay. And they basically in charge of navigating ships around.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just looking up. If you really want to know about navigators, there's an absolutely brilliant book. It's called Rites of Passage by Mike Brooks, Black Library book. That's just about navigator houses. If you want to read something 40k that has nothing to do with Space Marines or fighting or war, and is just a really cool separate part of the lore, I recommend that book. It's just all about their houses and infighting.
Infighting, yeah.
Almost like the kind of Venetian houses, kind of jostling for position in high society and that kind of stuff. It's quite cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that is cool.
The other big one that we're probably not going to dedicate much time to on this, but we have done an episode on, is squats.
Oh, yeah.
Abhumans. We're talking real squats here. I checked because I still don't really understand the Votan stuff, but it seems like you can sum it up that they're now saying that squats are kind of semi-retcon. Squats were the prospect fleets of the greater League of Votan from the Galactic Core. So what we grew up with as squats and what you can still get in Necromunda as squats were like the exploratory fleets of what is now known as the Leagues of Votan. So that's how they're kind of explaining that there were squats. And of course, squats sending to Leontus would be well up for a fight with the Nids, because they essentially wiped the vast majority out.
Not a fan. Yeah.
So whether the Leagues of Votan feel that same hatred towards the Nids, I don't know. But listen to our full squats episode for more on them. There are a few other honourable mentions I've got. I don't know if you guys have got any more. But not many. There's not much about lots of these. There's the Amphi, which is shapeshifters from a planet called Lampra, which I'd like to see more of. These things called the Drapanes. And all I could find out about with them is they have sickle-shaped heads, Katara, so sunken eyes, technologically advanced. So these guys all committed suicide at once in the Great Crusade. So the Emperor's children landed there, and they were categorized as abhumans because they looked a bit different, and they were technologically very advanced. And instead of just joining the Imperium, they wanted to settle it with a duel. And they picked their champion who dueled an emperor's children and lost the duel. And when their champion lost the duel, the entire planet committed suicide.
Like a cult.
They didn't last.
Oh man, that's like, I bet that emperor's children guy was like, "Oh man, you didn't have, they didn't all have to do that." It's like
that was when they were still the nice guys, the emperor's children as well. They probably been lamenting all the lost artwork and musical scores. These guys called the Thrix, which Drake talks about. All we could find out about them is they have lethal plumage, so presumably they're feathered humans. And then two really weird ones that I don't know if we'd count, but I liked and didn't really know much about. One of them is that did you guys know there's vampires in Necromunda?
No.
Spelled I think the old-fashioned way with a Y.
Read about this.
No way.
But yeah.
They're mentioned in one of the Necromunda books. I wonder whether they'll ever come back, but they're described as, everybody thinks that they're old myths from old Earth, but actually there's some kind of mutation that gives them all the powers of vampires that we know.
Again, there's the fantasy 40k connection.
I know, I was just thinking that it's kind of funny that they're even like, everyone thinks it's a myth. It's like they even exist in mythology in like 40,000. I'd like to see a vampire Necromunda character. It would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think it is like, when we're talking particularly about this kind of stuff, which a lot of this kind of lore does go back to the early days, rogue trader days, stuff like that. And it is like so interesting to see how it's become. Like, I think I was thinking this with the Dark Eldar episode we did as well, and we were talking about earlier with the ogryns, where it all just starts as a straight rip-off from A to B, and then it's like they almost have to kind of pad it out. Some of it works and some of it doesn't, and it is very interesting to see this kind of disparate group of things brought together and also talked about in the official lore, like that Rogue Trader book, the thing written by Drake. That's like an official Games Workshop publication. It talks about like some mad shit,
and a very
it's nice to see Games Workshop like tipping its hat to people just to say like, hey, you know, it is like, fuck it, you can have a Catman army, you can, you know, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. And that's only a couple of years old, so that's flat bang up to date. Yeah,
definitely.
And we've said it before, like it's so great that the smaller games, Kill Team, Blackstone, hopefully Blackstone comes back, give them an opportunity to just tantalize us with the odd model for these things.
Yeah,
like a lot of this, you know, we've mentioned, we've seen in those games. Can you imagine they bring out the Beastmen Kill Team recently? That was amazing.
Yeah,
Felinid Kill Team. How fucking great would that be?
Beastmen in Blackstone Fortress, Beastmen Kill Team, and I don't know, for a prediction maybe at the end of last year, I said that my prediction was that they'd have a Beastmen army.
Well, it could be that missing
as the new Xenos. Yeah.
I want them to do some more of these Afriel strain, like the big, dumb, clumsy guys who like keep wandering around.
They remind me of those. You've seen that guy that does the 3D sculpts of like the space. I think you sent it to us actually. The Space Marines in like togas.
Oh, the fabulous like Marines. Yeah, they're amazing. But it's not just before we sign off, and we've been talking about abhumans. But I think there's some animals as well, which I just wanted to very quickly just round out the show. I think these are quite fun. These are quite good. It's not just the humans; it's the animal kingdom that also gets affected by stuff. So I'm going to ask you. We'll start things off nice and easy. What do you think a sump croc is?
Oh, that is just a big crocodile
thing that eats and lives in the shed.
Exactly. Yeah, just a big fuck off crocodile that can bite its way through like iron and stuff like that.
Like bionic eyes on them as well.
Yeah, a lot of the wildlife has random bionics attached to it. It's kind of cool. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. What do you think an ash clam is?
Oh,
something that lives in like the ash wastes.
Yeah, something that lives under the sands in the ash wastes and like eats people as they go over the sand.
Well, they're some of the oldest organisms on Necromunda, and they've basically like a kind of mollusk that they think lived on the planet prior to anything being built there, but over the years has basically developed into this kind of like a barnacle that basically lives on the bottom of Necromunda and can digest absolutely anything. So all the like toxic waste and all that kind of shit that they pour down, it can eat it all. It can eat bones and stuff. And Drake's got this really cool story about how people get stuck in them. So you'll be like walking around and all of a sudden one of them will like bite onto your leg and that's it. You've got to like spend the next 20 years being slowly digested by this ash clam, which is pretty cool. And he describes getting caught in one, but simply removing his boot and fleeing because he's a pompous dick. Okay, so what do you think ichor slime is? It's a paint color as well, like ichor blue or something, but ichor slime.
It's like pink or purple.
Is it some kind of slime mold? Is it some kind of mold?
It kind of is. It's a sentient slime.
Does it eat just eats everything?
It's a sentient slime. It does eat everything, but it will essentially climb onto your face whilst you're sleeping like a slug, and then it's got like a neurotoxin.
Does it take you over?
Well, no. It's got like a neurotoxin in that like lets you like experience this kind of like bliss. So that even if you woke up at that stage, you wouldn't like do anything about the fact you had this slime on your face. And then over the space of about 3 hours, it just dissolves your face to the skull and like eats it basically. But it says that there's amazing. Like people in Necromunda, there's these kind of like dodgy kind of like opium houses you can go to where they'll come and like just chuck one on your face for like half an hour. And like, so, so your mate will pull it off before it like eats your face kind of thing.
Yeah, or they'll get a phone call and forgot about another one.
I forgot about the face slime, damn it. Yeah,
they're in cahoots with the plastic surgeons upstairs.
And this one, which I thought was the coolest ones, and also the name, which is going to give the least away and is the most impronounceable, so you're probably never going to get it. But the Caruptives, the Caruptives, or Caruptives.
Absolutely.
Sounds like something that you put on your pizza.
Yeah, it does a bit, yeah. Well, these are a mysterious kind of, the cherubs, the cherubins. These are mysterious kind of rogue flock of cherubs that live in the Underhive, and they've all turned blue and have like ropey bat wings.
So they're Smurfs.
Yeah, basically they're kind of blue, and they've got all these weird like mythology around them, where people are very superstitious of them, and they think that they're only like attracted to people that are gonna like accomplish great things, and they only like will
like a leprechaun. They're like little
kind of something like that. So kind of there's some definite folktale stuff in there.
Yeah,
but like it's quite funny. Drake in the book says, "I find that hard to believe because they paid no interest to me," which I thought was quite interesting. So he's just so stuck up that he's just great. It's all bollocks because they were like, no, they wouldn't hang around with me. So yeah,
Drake is such a brilliant modern character that they introduced. The Blackstone Fortress Black Library book and audiobook is very good, where he's like the main character. He's the main guy in that. That's quite. Yeah, I've got a poster of him on my wall. He's quite and the fact that it's only relatively recently introduced into Warhammer through the Blackstone Fortress game, but they've been able to use him as a rogue trader. I mean, we need to do a rogue trader episode.
He's an excellent character, and really gives you because it's like he's like the aristocracy above the aristocracy in a way. He's completely untouchable by the rules and stuff. It's like it's well funny. Another thing I meant to mention earlier when we were talking about the mermen guys is he's got a great passage in there where he describes finding this lake of tar inside the Blackstone Fortress, and he finds an inquisitor there who's also trying to get across this this lake of tar, and there's he's being really cagey with her at first because she's like, oh, who's this like
I think that might be in the audiobook.
Life scumbag or whatever. And then after a while they get to chatting and he goes like, oh, I found out that her father and mine were both a part of the same fencing academy, so I decided to share my secrets.
I think that's in the audiobook.
It's really good. He's an excellent character, a classic, a real Warhammer classic character.
Definitely.
There was one hideous abhuman, whether we'd call it that as well, that we've mentioned before, and that's the unfleshed.
Oh,
so do you remember the unfleshed? The demonculaba babies.
Oh, I guess they are.
Don't have any skin.
But
they are, because they get saved by Uriel Ventis, and they because apparently the ones that escape retain a love of the Emperor. Whether that comes from the gene seed that's tried to be mixed with them, or whether they've remembered it from being children before they're put in the demonculaba bellies. But he saves them all. But then another sad story, they then get possessed and kill some Grey Knights, and then they all have to be killed. And it says Uriel Ventis puts the last one out of its shame with a psi cannon.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, he like just closes their eyes and pulls out this like massive
bringing a nuke to a knife party.
Oh, that is funny. But you think he thought he was going to have he was going to be like the Professor Xavier, like school for gifted kids or whatever. It's like Uriel Septon, school for gifted children or whatever. Skinless gifted.
Stoney, you mentioned cherubs, and I know the cherubs in various sources they're written about as being like vat grown and man-made, but do they not count as abhuman? Because
I think they're servitors. I think they're babies that have been turned into servitors.
I mean, I don't know. We'll have to investigate.
I think that's particularly in modern age. It's probably best that GW doesn't elaborate too much on what they are.
Keep a gold chain on my neck, fly as a jet. Boy, better treat me with respect.
Well, boys, time's running out. Which of these abhuman scum are you going to send me to fill the gaps on my front line? I mean, which have you selected?
Leontus, I'm your biggest fan. Can you give me a medal? Can I send you some fan mail?
I'm hanging up. I'm hanging up. He's gone, Matt. He's gone.
No!
God damn, embarrassing the show again with your Leontus love.
Perhaps they'll let you polish his helmet.
Yeah. I hope so. I mean,
so
personally,
what are we sending?
I think we should send them all, apart from the navigators, because they're abhumans after all, and they all deserve to be wiped off the face of the Imperium.
And the cat people. I want the cat people to stay.
Okay, yeah, cat people are navigators.
So we're not deciding what we're sending. We're deciding what we want to
Deciding
keep
what to
alive.
keep.
yeah.
Actually, and keep the ogryns, because I have a new love for the ogryns, and I feel really sorry for them.
Yeah,
and
I kind of want to just.
I
want to just move into a planet that's just cat people and ogryns. Fuck them. I think they're the above humans.
It would just be like the ogryns stroking the cat people.
Yeah.
We
should set up.
Oh, it'd be like it'd be a planet of Lennies. It'll be like all these cats with like backward stroked hair, like looking all timid, like pulled tails.
What was the other guy called? George? Can't remember. It'll be our planetary refuge for our charity. We sail around the galaxy saving ogryns and cat people, and we take them back to our sanctuary. Perfect.
All we have to do is, can we get the scalies in there?
Okay,
because I reckon they're all right.
You know, just give us £1 a month. £1 a month
to bang his way around
so
the
he
planet.
can fuck everything.
Maybe we should send him a vampire, but then we might end up with vampire nids. We'd be
it would all turn into like the thing. We'd have to be working out who the vampires were and stuff. Let's not overcomplicate it. Cat people, ogryns, one ratling.
All right, well, okay, we're sending them everything but the things we like. And
we're sending them everything except the things we like.
Make a refuge for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like trading.
LBP solves the Imperial. Segmentum Pacificus is going to be okay.
Yeah. Plus, I think we did old Crickman proud by trying to destroy our problems.
Yeah. We've learned well from it.
Yeah.